And welcome, everybody, to the Huddle, KG9's weekly streaming sports talk show. I'm Jason Barr, joined by Pat Parris. Pat, good afternoon. How are you today?
Doing pretty well, Jason. Not a bad day outside, and a lot of sports going on, obviously, we get to talk about.
Oh, and certainly it is March Madness, and the Arizona men's basketball team ranked 5th in the country this first week of March as we get set for the final week of the regular season in men's basketball. I think, Pat, we're just going to start here with our new feature this year, and that is our poll question. And that is, Kylan Boswell scored 19 points in the first half against Oregon. So the Wildcats played Oregon this past Saturday, and they scored 103 points, won 103-83. And, Boswell's been a little inconsistent this year, but he had 19 in the first half against Oregon. So here's your choice that you can vote at kgun9.com, 1, 2, or 3. 1, and he didn't even start the game, right, because it was senior day, so they started Grant Whiteman. So he came in with 4 minutes into the game and then scored 19. 2, Pat, we've been waiting for this all year. Or 3, wish he had scored in the second half because he's got a career-high 19 points, but they were all in a mid-stretch or in the first half, but not in the first part of it. All 19 points in that stretch. Pat, you going 1, 2, or 3 with Kylan Boswell?
Well, as often happens with your poll question, Jason, there's a little truth in all of it, or a little bit I can see in all of them in a lot of ways. I think I probably go with and he didn't even start the game because of senior day. He didn't start the game. He came in after the first timeout, and then he went off for 19 points and in really just 3/4 of a quarter, if that makes sense, and 15 minutes of a 20-minute quarter. I think part of it, though, I will say this is we've been waiting for all this for all year, but remember, he had a nice game against Arizona State earlier last week too. So his 2 games combined, I think he averaged 18 points. That's the kind of production you love to see, and it really does change your thoughts about this team. And it certainly does make you think that if he can continue to contribute like this, maybe not 19 points or 17 points every time, but a real steady contributor, they're so much better of a team, Jason. They're so much tougher to defend against when you've got basically your 4th or 5th best player in Kylan Boswell scoring that many points.
It's funny you say that, Pat, because I was thinking about the poll question during halftime, and that was actually number 3 was this team is different now. And then he didn't score the second.
He didn't score that. Well, they didn't play.
And I'm like, forget that. I'm going.
They didn't have to, but yeah.
I'm going with 3. Wish he had scored in the second half. I mean, he got 19. He missed a free throw late in the first half, so he really could have had 20. He missed the front end of a 1-and-1, so he could have had 20 or 21. You want to put 2 halves together. Wish he had scored in the second half. That's what I'm going.
Yeah. Well, Tommy Lloyd said that after the game, when they did the little senior let them speak too. He said, these guys didn't play very well defensively in the second half. That's something at least I can get on them in practice on Monday. Well, they didn't really need to, obviously. And it was just kind of a lethargic kind of atmosphere in that second half. And nobody played particularly great in the second half. And they got a lot of the
Larson
young players. Yeah. So that happens. It happens.
Larson did, or at least he scored a lot of points.
Yeah, he did.
He also said that if he had known that Kylan Boswell would have scored 19 after not starting, he would have started Grant Whiteman every game. He's the senior walk-on who started. Whiteman actually got a steal and held his own.
He did hold his own,
but any more than that, I think it would have been a little tough out there. But
really,
he held his own for a minute or so.
Back to my point, really, I mean, you think about it, we know where the scoring usually comes from this team in Caleb Love and Umar Ballo, and Umar Ballo continues to be a double-double machine. And then you get the games like you got from Pella Larson. You get those more often than not, actually. And so it really, and Keshad's Keshad. Keshad's going to have a double-digit scoring game one game, and then he's not, but he'll contribute in a lot of other ways. But for this team to really succeed and maybe make it past the Sweet 16, they have to have more games like that. Certainly from Boswell, he's got to be more of a contributor. And
Yes.
what he's got to learn from, this is what I was thinking about the other day, Jason, what he's got to learn from Caleb Love is you can't be afraid of big moments, and you can't be afraid of taking that shot. And you certainly can't be afraid if the first couple don't go down to start passing it up. And we see
frustrating when he has an open shot and doesn't
it
take
is.
it just because he
And
missed
it's
the
like,
prior
it's
one.
not even early in the possession. This is midway to later in the
Yeah.
possession. And he gets a wide open look and he goes, and then he dribbles and he passes off. And it's like, no, we really want to see you have that confidence, because when he is in rhythm and he has that confidence, he's as pure a shooter as you'll see.
Well, his shooting percentage was very high in the first part of the season in the non-Pac-12 part of the schedule, and then it's only kind of when we went into Pac-12 that he started struggling a little bit. But yeah, Caleb Dove does a good job of that. He's got a shooter's mentality. He misses, he's not going to be afraid to take the next one, and you don't want him to be afraid. You don't want, because that's compounding a mistake or compounding a loss just because you missed the first one. Well, you can make the second one, and you saw Boswell's confidence grow. He almost took one he shouldn't have, in that first half because he was making so many.
Yeah.
So that's okay if you're hot, keep going. But yes, totally agree with that. He's got to keep shooting.
He does, and this team, they're fun to watch for sure. And when they put up 100 points, it's phenomenal. We all love seeing that, but we still need to see them find ways to win when they're not able to run up and down the court. I think they'll have a little bit of a test on Thursday against UCLA, in the sense that, UCLA is not great, but they put together a pretty good second half of the season. They figured some things out. Mick Cronin is a terrific coach. You might not like him and his fiery personality, but he can coach. He's got them playing better basketball. I like their chances against UCLA Thursday night, but I'd like to see them figure out a way to win and look confident and strong, even if this game is played in the upper 70s or into the 80s, and not when they have to score, when they can score 90, 95, 100. We all know they can do that. They got to win other ways.
Here's what I want Wildcat fans to just be aware of. If Arizona drops to the 2 seed in the West region and they go to Salt Lake and they have to play BYU, which would happen if BYU was a 7 seed, so they'd have to drop a little bit, right? BYU is going to get to play in Salt Lake, even though that's not far from their home court. And BYU's top 3-point shooter, right? What's the Achilles heel in the NCAA tournament, the 3-point shooting? BYU's top 3-point shooter is also from Salt Lake. So he's going to be playing in front of his home crowd, his hometown fans, in pretty much a home arena, right? Heavy Salt Lake fans, heavy BYU fans. I don't want BYU, if Arizona's going to drop to the 2 seed, we don't want BYU dropping to the 7 seed, because, Pat, that could be a tough spot. I know that's looking way ahead, right? You're concerned with the LA schools this week. You're concerned with the Pac-12 tournament. You're trying to get the best seed. That's just what I see out there that I don't like.
It's interesting that you've looked that far ahead. I still think they're right now, they're a solid number one.
No, I don't think so.
I really do. Every metric shows them at being number 4 right now. You didn't let me finish, though. Right today, if the tournament brackets came out today, they'd be the number 1 seed.
Are you sure?
100%. Net ranking 4. Ken Palm 4. Joe Lunardi has them as the number 1 seed. They just came out again with the first 16. Those first the number 1 seeds, since they've been coming out with that little kind of early look at what the selection committee is looking at, the number 1s have never fallen off that line. Could happen. It could, and my point was going to be, they have to take care of business against UCLA and USC.
I believe they do that. Tennessee has home games against South Carolina and Kentucky this week.
Yeah, which they should win those, right? They're at home. Right. Nobody's going to expect them not to win those. It's really it's Arizona's number 1 seed to have. But the bottom line is 1 or 2 doesn't matter. They're going to be in Salt Lake. Then they're going to go to LA because they're going to be out west. Then they're going to end up in Phoenix or in Glendale if they get that far. The difference between a 1 and a 2, though, are those kind of matchups you talk about where you're just playing a slightly better team every time when you're the 2 seed, at least theoretically. But it still gets back to this, Jason. They got to, again, don't mean to sound like a broken record. They have to be able to find ways to win against teams that get them out of what they love to do, and that's run the court and score at an insane rate. They're number 2 in the nation at 90.3 points per game. Only Alabama at 90.9, and they've already beaten Alabama. So, this is an Arizona team that's among the best in scoring in the country. They've got to figure out a way to do it when that team wearing the other uniform doesn't allow them to score 90 points a game.
Yeah, no, I'd be very happy as a 2 seed. We know what happens to number 1 seeds in the NCAA tournament. If they're in the West and Tennessee is the 1 seed and Arizona is the 2 seed in the West, fine. I just don't want that BYU game. Okay, I don't want a 2-7 game against BYU in Salt Lake in the second round. I just want to avoid that. That when the brackets come out and that's not in the cards, I'll feel a little bit better about that. I just don't like the storyline there. But you never know what type of matchups you have, what type of brackets. I actually asked Keyshawn Johnson, we're doing a story for the special on what makes a Final Four team, because Arizona actually has 3 players who have been to the Final Four. Keyshawn Johnson, Caleb Love, and the one you don't think of is Umar Ballo, because he didn't play when Gonzaga beat UCLA and made it to the championship game. So I had for a story that we're going to do, I asked Keyshawn Johnson, what makes a Final Four team? Is it team chemistry? Is it getting hot at the right time? Is it the luck of the brackets and the matchups? And his answer was, I think, the right one. Pat, he said all the above.
Well, I think that's exactly right. And I see what you're saying about that, but the bracketology right now with BYU actually has Iowa State as a 2 seed, because that's going to split back off and go back. They're not going to LA, in other words. So
BYU could be playing in Salt Lake, but not be part of the West region. Then
that's
you don't
right.
have to worry about
it.
So
they could avoid.
I'm making a big deal about this, and partly I'm just having fun here, Pat. The chances that this is going to happen are slim because BYU's got to be in the West, and then they've got to have a bracket that's got to match up with Arizona.
Yeah,
BYU could be in Salt Lake and not even be in the West region. I'm just trying to have some fun and look at something ahead that
Gotcha.
Isn't
you want to get us all worried about something, just to get excited, just to kind of ruffle some feathers.
Be worried about the 3-point defense. I just don't want a team goes off and shoots 55% from 3. That's what you got to be worried about. Could have to be BYU. It can be any team.
You're right. No, it all gets back to matchups. We've both seen it the last 2 years. Houston, not a good matchup. Princeton, obviously not a good matchup, especially with the chemistry or lack of chemistry or lack of toughness with that team last year. This team is tougher this year, but we're not exactly seeing it, as you pointed out. I think it was last week we talked about those 1-possession losses, the record in 1-possession games. It's not good this year, but we're also talking about a team that's only lost 6 games when a lot of teams have lost 6 games. Never would you think a 1 seed with 6 wins was good enough. It's more than good enough. Tennessee has 6 losses is more than good enough.
Gotcha,
Tennessee has 6 losses this year too, and we're talking about those two, Arizona and Tennessee, kind of battling for that 4th 1 seed.
All right, so the Pac-12 tournament is going to be the following week, right? We're talking about the end of the regular season here for the men going to the LA schools. But for the women, the Pac-12 tournament starts this week. And I think U of A women need not only to beat Washington in the first round, but I think they've got to beat USC in that second round game to get in the tournament. Just a hunch on my part. That's all. You can make a case either way. They are on the bubble. But the Pac-12 is dissolving, right? It's the end of the Pac-12. Mm-hmm. And Pat, Adia Barnes made an interesting comment. I think what prompted this comment that we're about to play is that she didn't have her practice times yet for Las Vegas for her team. Now, this comment was made after they lost on Saturday. She probably wasn't in the best of moods, trying to make the best of things. But at the time, she didn't have her practice times for Las Vegas, and she said something that was kind of interesting. So let's play this sound bite, and then we'll talk about it on the way at the end of it. So let's go ahead and roll that.
The challenging thing too for the Pac-12 is it's like everybody's kind of transitioning. So I'm curious to see how the tournament's going to be, because there's going to be a lot of understaffing. And so that's kind of the part I'm a little bit, because there's a lot of answers we don't have. I think it's kind of rough right now. So I'm curious to see how all that's going to play out, because there's a lot of people that are losing their jobs or have left. So I'm hoping it's good for the experience of the players. That's really important. We'll practice an hour on Tuesday, and then it's go time Wednesday.
All right. Number one, feel badly for anybody who's losing their job, who's been part of
Yes.
the Pac-12, who doesn't deserve to lose their job as being laid off. I feel for anybody in that situation. But I was not going into this Pac-12 tournament as a media member and also a little bit as a fan, Pat, of thinking, well, there could be some type of problem. Do you foresee any situations that could possibly pop up here?
The one good thing that the Pac-12 is going for is they've done this before. It's not as if this is a brand new tournament and they don't have enough staffing and things like. They have the blueprint there. But it is a little disturbing that she didn't even have practice times because, again, the blueprint's there, right? Shouldn't that just be a given that if you're the team that's playing at X time on Wednesday, then your practice Tuesdays at this time? You and I have covered, I don't know, together we probably covered 60 NCAA tournaments or something like 50 or 60 NCAA tournaments. We know that that if you're playing on Thursday, Saturday, you're going to
Right.
have that practice time on Wednesday, and the NCAA could tell us today.
Right.
If you're the
Right.
1 seed, this is the time you're going to be
That's right.
practicing the day before. So the Pac-12 knows that. I think what's happening is there's a lack of staff right now to get that information disseminated out to the right people. I think once they get there, it'll be like clockwork. They all know what they're supposed to do. Everybody has a job to do. It just might be that some people are doing double duty. Some people are doing a couple of different things that they normally didn't. So there might be some things that fall through the cracks.
I think because of that, maybe I'll be a little bit aware and cognizant if our station goes, if we go to cover the Pac-12 tournament, maybe I'll just be a little bit more aware when I'm dealing with some of the staffers there about things because if you're changing jobs or don't have something lined up, it's a little bit unsettling. So, but I don't think really we're going to see something tangible like nobody mopping up the sweat on the court after somebody
Right.
falls and then the next guy trips
Right.
and they just didn't have anybody to hire somebody to mop the sweat off the floor. I'm thinking of something tangible that could that could arise.
No,
I don't see
I think,
that, but
yeah.
maybe I haven't thought of it every type of scenario.
Well, I thought it was interesting today. They came out with another press release today, the Pac-12, that they got Oakley, the sunglass company,
Right.
as a sponsor for this men's and women's basketball tournaments the next 2 weekends, women's first and men's second. So they're still just now getting around to I wonder if the sales staff for the Pac-12 has been reduced down to so low that they're just getting around to signing some of these contracts now for your basketball tournament that tips off in 2 days. And it's interesting to me that's still going on. And it reverts back. I'm sure those watching too have watched the Pac-12 network this season. It's just not the same, Jason. We know it. They're not doing pre-games. They're not doing post games. The intermission reports are quick and really most of the time they're from the arena itself. They're not from. There's no studio stuff. It's really just just kind of a skeleton crew at this point anyway. So I think maybe Adia was just saying that because she's a little bit concerned and we'll see if it plays out. I still have faith that they're going to pull this all off.
Yeah, I think that's the one tough thing about going to the Big 12 is that now the basketball tournament is going to be in Kansas City, and that's 40 miles from the University of Kansas.
Yeah,
So you lose that kind of home court, kind of
and
hometown
I kind of
feel.
cut my teeth, Jason, on the Big 8, and then it became the Big 12. I read out of college. That's where I worked, was in Iowa, and covered Iowa State at that tournament. In fact, I was there when Iowa State won the last Big 8 tournament. They won the last men's Big 8 basketball tournament. It's a phenomenal city for sports. They know how to host it. It's an incredible tournament. I can tell you that. It's top notch. It'll blow what Pac-12, what fans have seen at the Pac-12 away. It just will. And we know that we're going to see an elevated level of men's basketball like we've never. And this will make this league, far and away the best league in the country, and might be one of the best leagues in the history of college basketball. Just with the addition of Iowa State. With Arizona going in, playing the Iowa States and the Kansas and the Baylors and the Houstons, and it's going to be quite something.
Yeah, we'll have more on that in our special that we're working on here, our March Madness special that's going to drop. If you're watching this, you know a thing about digital, so it'll drop digitally on Monday, March 11th, I believe. So yeah, we'll have a little bit of that on the show as well. So it's Arizona women against Washington.
One more thing about that, Jason.
Yeah,
I will say this. I looked to see what you like to. look at the prognostications going on, and for ESPN bracketology on the women's side, the NCAA net ranking has Arizona women at 36, which is not bad. That should get you consideration, right? But right now, ESPN bracketology has them on the next 4 out. So they list the last 4 in, the first 4 out, then the next 4 out. So they have them somewhere about the 5th or 6th team not to make the field in the women's tournament. I'm with you. I think you can answer a lot of questions and maybe shut the door on that conversation if you just win your first 2 games. But that means beating USC, which we know they had a real opportunity the other night to beat USC, and they couldn't quite hold on, and that's a shame.
Yeah, and they were stiff for some reason against UCLA, and also UCLA, that's the toughest matchup in the world.
It is, and I think they were
UCLA's
out of
got
gas.
a 6'7" player who's unguardable for any. She makes Brea Cunningham, who I think is 6'2", look small. Okay, and they just have size everywhere. That was a tough matchup against UCLA.
I think they were out of gas, Jason. I think
the Bruins. I went to that game. The
mentally,
Bruins were up 13-0 after a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
That was tough. So I do think they need one. I meant to look this up before, so I apologize. I have a little bit of this wrong. There's another women's postseason tournament that is above where the WNIT was last year that's sponsored by the NCAA. So the postseason is a little bit different, that they could be in that inaugural tournament. I know they want to go to the NCAA tournament. It would not be the worst thing in the world for them to go to this and then do what they did in 2019 because they've got 3 freshmen who start, and that experience would be great for them. I think for Adia, it's been there, done that. She was a part of the WNIT when she was a player, and then won it, also as a coach. So I don't think she wants anything but the NCAA tournament. But it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, I don't think. Yeah. But I do think they need a win. I still feel a little bit of the West Coast bias. I'll never forget the 2013 NCAA baseball selection show in which Arizona baseball was the defending champion, and they did not make the tournament when they should have that year. So that's why I am always skeptical about Arizona getting in.
Yeah, it's always a concern. Although you can always make the argument that the Pac-12 is the best basketball league for women's basketball.
That's right.
And they deserve all those.
And they have a signature win at Stanford.
They do. That is a signature win. Sure would have helped if they just would have beat USC.
That's right. They wouldn't have to worry. They could have gone out against UCLA and played much looser. They probably still wouldn't have beaten them, but they wouldn't have looked as stiff as they did. Yeah. That's a tough one to be up by 10 in the fourth quarter and lose in double overtime.
Well, the best thing about postseason play, Jason, if you get your conference tournament, it's kind of like, wipe it all out and just play. Go out there, forget the last few games, and just play.
And they would get USC in the semifinals. They wouldn't get UCLA, who's a tough matchup, and Stanford, who I don't know if they're beating Stanford twice in a row. Okay, so I mean, who knows? Maybe they could, but at least another shot at USC might be what the doctor ordered. So we'll see. That's the fun of it. That's March Madness. That's what this month is. That's for a lot of the country, college basketball is a 1-month sport. For us, it's not, but it is the highlight, the signature month. So looking forward to that. All right. This has been the Huddle, KGUN 9's weekly.
You want to get the poll question one more time?
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Pat. Let's pull out that poll question and see if anybody has voted yet. Kylan Boswell scored 19 in the first half against Oregon. 1, 2, or 3. He didn't. Do we have any results yet so far? I'm not sure if we do. I'm going with 3. Wish he had scored in the second half. Pat, what's your final answer?
I went with and he didn't even start the game.
Of course, because you're Mr. Positive, and I'm I'm a little I was a little down about him not scoring in the second half. That's just our personalities. All right. For Pat Parris, I'm Jason Barr. This has been the Huddle. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you next week.